Well, good afternoon, folks. It's 2:20 here in Ontario, and this is News You Can Use. This is Denali Guide. I'll be your host for the meantime. There's my email address, hand scrawled on the bottom of one of my really great private indexes. You can get a free copy of Peak Picks at denaliguide@hotmail.com. Well, let's look here. First of all, let me put in my disclaimers, which my lawyers tell me I have to put in. So it's this. You are responsible for your own investment decisions. You must do your own due diligence, and it's your money, and they will be your losses if you don't do it. Anyway, this is a gold oscillator, and it's made off the GDM index. And basically, it tells you how many stocks are above their 20 and 50-day moving averages. And as you notice, it took a little spike up here. Now, let's go back. That I call Chuck's index. You'll see why later. Or maybe not. This is my index. And it's something that I created from the advances and declines within the precious metals complex sector. And it moves far in advance, approximately 2 weeks, of any move in the precious metals sector. But it, in fact, shows how much strength is under it. Now, even though we've had perhaps a 10% rally, maybe a 20% rally, this thing, of course, has skyrocketed. Why has it skyrocketed? Because it's about to bounce off the ceiling. After it bounces off the ceiling, it'll go right back down where it did. So it is a recursive or bounded indicator. It doesn't tell us absolutely how well we're doing. It tells us relatively how we're doing. Now let's go ahead and get into some news you can use. As is my case. Let's see if the camera flips. Swipe down to stop, double tap to flip camera. Alright.
Did it flip?
No, not yet. I be not flipping yet. My producer's going to come over here. Hey, I know I'm flipped out. Oh man, it's nothing like knowing how to do it. Now, let's talk about news you can use. Apparently, everything is awesome. That's right. Pick up the paper, watch the TV, and let them tell you what they got to tell you. Everything is awesome. However, there's a number of people who don't think it's so awesome. And rather than happy faces, like the MSM talking heads, they actually have facts. Okay? Retail sales are in deflation. Specifically, they're moving to the point where year over year, they're in decline. My favorite semi-fast food chain, that is if you get order right, is McDonald's. And they are struggling. And haven't they been the darling of the Nifty 50 for so long? They are struggling to make a buck. Let's look at that. Yearly, on the S&P 500, we have revenue declines year over year. Well, what's that mean? It means that they're not making as much money. Number 3, in the S&P, the profits are showing weakness. You know what's happening? People don't make stuff anymore for the lower 80% of the population because they can't make any decisions to buy because they have no disposable income. All their income is tapped out: food, clothing, shelter, transportation. It is a problem. And let's go to what these national banks are doing. Central banks, I should say. Swiss National Bank just dropped a bomb on the market, as did the Chinese. The Chinese revalued their yuan. Now, there is a problem here. Some moves in the marketplace are simply too big for central banks to handle. Number 1. Number 2, central banks say they work together, say they coordinate. But what's the real bottom line? When they're lowering the lifeboats over the side, it's every man for himself. Just no doubt about it. Let's look at the fact that they will, how do I say this? On their press releases, I could say they lie right up to the moment of impact. I don't think they mean to make the moment of the impact shocking, but the fact that they don't tell you what's happening beforehand so the markets can discount it makes it all the more shocking. Yes, that's a problem. And it reminds me of Phil Collins' song, Shock the Monkey. Yes, because I'm an aged rocker, and that's the way it goes. Now, let's talk about, that was the bad news. Let's talk about the good news. Yes, there really is some good news. We have organic growth in some stocks. We have stocks that... Hey Mariel, how are you? Give me some hearts, huh? This is Denali Guide broadcasting from Ontario. Nice sunny day. We're waiting for a little storm, and now we're going to talk about the good news. The good news is that some junior stocks in the metals arena are in fact going to do better than everybody else. There's another piece of good news, and it's not just confined to the, confined to the junior sector. Barrick's Gold is a very sick company, and yet they have a 16% weighting, the biggest dog, in the GDX. And the GDX looks sick. Now, admittedly, when the precious metals sector gets bombed for the paper not-for-profit trades made on the Crimex, it really can't hold up. You know, it's just going to keep drifting and drifting and drifting. However, when we go back to that really hot my index that I showed you, let's see if I can get it here.
What are you doing?
I'm switching back. My index is so, I got it, it's done. My index is so hot, you'd expect that the GDX would have doubled by now. Problem is, the GDX won't double based on advances and declines. However, this gives you about a week to 2 weeks head up on any actual moves. There's my address down at the bottom. Feel free to write for a free copy of Peak Picks. Let's go back now to my beautiful visage. Okay, and we're back. And I'm awfully red in the face, and I don't know why.
You're not on my screen.
Okay, thank you. My producer told me that I'm actually clear to continue broadcasting, and I'm not red on her screen. So let's look at some of these juniors and figure out what the deal is, and then we'll look at and see why Ring is good. Okay? It's a good ring. Hold on. Now, everybody's got to own their past sins. This particular stock is one of my past sins. However, you see that black line up in there? Let's see. Yeah, here we go. This is a free stock charts chart. So you can have 3 indicator screens, and you can have 3 overlay measures like that. Okay, the moving averages. This is the accumulation distribution line, meaning how much more stock is bought than sold, or how much more stock is sold than bought. This is the moving average convergence divergence indicator, known as MACD. It's probably oldest and most used out there. I think I was online when it was first put out in 1974. This is Treasury Metals. And Treasury Metals was spun off about 4 years ago by Laramide Resources. Laramide Resources had been a company that was supplying uranium to the French nuclear industry. And Treasury Metals then had a good run. They have a property called Goliath Giant, or Big Goliath, or somebody up near where Hammond Reef was, in the famed Canadian area of Atatokan, the canoe capital of the world. But you'll notice that Ring, R-I-N-G, continues to go down, and Treasury Metals looks like it's completely contradicting that trend. I'm using Ring because instead of a 16% rating being the top dog, it has a rating of 14% for Goldcorp and 12% for Newmont Mining. And finally, in third position, it has an 11% rating. So that average is a lot less sick than the HUI, the XAU, or the GDX. So that's a good junior. We recommended that back on July 9th. Let's go look at another junior. This is Viscount Mining. Now, it's a junior. Juniors always have cash problems, so you can see how it underperformed the ring. But right now, it's running hard. Viscount Mining is VML.V. Treasury Metals is TML.TO. Toronto exchanges, they're available in the pink sheets. Now let's go to a little bit of a dark horse. What am I doing buying an electrical utility when I'm a precious metals guy? This is El Paso Electric, EE. Why? Why did I buy it? Well, because it looked better than anything out there, because it's not an air stock like Twitter or Facebook. Indeed, they're utilities, aren't they? However, when disposable income falls off and their advertisers don't patronize them, there's going to be a problem. I don't think that the people will be able to unhook from El Paso Electric yet. Not that El Paso couldn't generate a lot of solar. In fact, El Paso is a city where people are fleeing because the income's high. But look at the advanced decline line on the bottom of the screen. Just steadily going up. Now, I count that as volume. So I count that as up volume. And when there's a fight between volume and price, and they do not agree, price usually resolves to the direction of volume. Let me say that again. Price usually evolves to the direction of volume. This is Denali Guide. I'm broadcasting from Ontario this nice summer afternoon. And there's my email address. If you'd like to have a copy of Peak Picks, please write me and I'll send you a current copy. Now, let's go back. Here's a sort of a wild card, but one I really like. That's Klondex. And Klondex has been a recommendation probably since the first of the year. And we see that it again contradicts the big average. We see again that the advanced decline line is going up. Why? Apparently, the technicals tell me that Klondex is a well-managed company in a good jurisdiction. Klondex has prospects in Nevada, and that's where it's at. That's about what I got for you today. Not that it's not a little, it's actually a lot to digest. Let's see if we can review. To review, my indicator, private indicator, known as my index, for reasons that we understand, has taken off like a scorched cat and is probably at the top of its run for now. Now, if we look at that, can we predict? No, we cannot predict. Not me. I'm not going to predict. What you will find is, however, as a guide, I can tell you whether you're in a river bottom, in my opinion, or on a mountaintop. And I believe if we look at my index, we can say, well, we're sure not in a river bottom at this point. Well, I would agree with that. And so therefore I would say it's approximately the middle of August. I think we're going to have a down move to consolidate, maybe half of that move into Labor Day. Or we could see an abortive rally. I don't see it going a lot further yet because the sentiment's not there. The sentiment's still in a hole. However, I think September will find a steady erosion in it. I expect by the end of third quarter, with all the dire predictions coming out of a financial apocalypse, I don't really know which way that's going to go. I think, however, we will find ourselves back in the river bottom we found ourselves in July 22nd, which is the end of those dark marks. So let's see. If you're in a river bottom, where can you go? Well, I suspect Q4 will look like the right-hand section of this chart and will go forth. However, what do I expect? Well, I don't really expect the Dow to rally. Let's talk about some dire numbers I threw out there. Let's talk about $14 oil. There is a device called the Wolf Wave, W-O-L-F-E, like the critter plus an E. And what the Wolf Wave does is measure top to bottom on previous advances and declines. Then it draws a specific set of lines in. My lines took me to $14. Now, back in 2002, 3, or 4, I was really freaked out because a similar but not the same method of guesstimating where it's going to go said we were going to get $150 oil. And I was wrong. I missed by $3. I was like, wow. Now, the same rogue chart predicted $5 copper when it was $2. I don't know if anybody predicted $2 copper when it was $5, but it's real scary. The other part of that is the Wolf Wave shows the Dow using the Dow Jones Composite Average, since the industrial average is so skewed. If I recorrelate it, it shows it going down over under 1,000. Now, if you listen to Marty Armstrong, you know it's going to 20,000. If you listen to other people, you know it's going to 0. I really don't know, but there is a theory out there that the gold price, a la Crimex, used to be that they would meet in the middle. And back in 82, gold was 800, and so was the Dow. We've seen it executed a number of times. I won't predict. I'm going to sit back and watch it. But that's my feeling about it. Let me move you back to Chuck's index, so we spent so much time on my index. Chuck's index can be found on the Precious Metals board at investorvillage.com. I believe you can come in on a free look, and I believe that you can access the Precious Metals board, and Chuck usually posts this every day at about 4:30. He had a hiatus there when we were all getting a snot beat out of us, but he came back. So the blue oscillator is a 20-day moving average of stocks that have 20-day moving averages over their 50. It's a good coincident predictor, whereas my index that I show you is actually known as Cartel Buster. Cartel Buster usually shows us 1 to 2 weeks in advance of a move. What neither of these things do is predict the amplitude of the move. If you go back to Citibank's comments maybe a month ago, they're saying we have fewer corrections and they're bigger. Now, if you look back to the beginning of 2014, we had a huge correction in the gold stocks. It almost became a trend. But from January to June, they kept ramping. Guess what? They stopped. Yes, Uncle Sam got mad because his AAA rating was reduced to single A, and he's been on a warpath as far as gold stocks have been concerned since late 2011. I have my concerns about it, but if we go back to these 3 juniors, let's review them. We have Treasury Metals. The sad story about Treasury Metals is, as I was following Laramidi, and who had spun off Treasury, I noticed that Treasury had just taken on board a number of executives from Pan American Silver. And Pan Am had just failed to buy out a smaller company. And the rumor was that the Pan Am execs were there to help Treasury Metals take it over. And that was a sure thing at about twice the price it is now. And then the merger aborted. That was the beginning of the end. Let's go back to the next one. Oh, Treasury Metals is TML.TO. Can be found on the pinks. Let's go to Viscount Mining, VML.V. They have properties in Nevada. Let's go to an electric utility, El Paso Electricity. Yeah, my producers tell me to wrap it up, so that's what I'm doing. And let's go to Klondike's. They have properties in Nevada. I think they're good properties. I think these guys are showing us that they got management. Anyway, instead of being so verbose, yes, I'm going to bid you adieu, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Give me hearts and email me if you want more information. Thanks a lot and have an awesome day.